PodcastAcademyOnline.com, built for the busy entrepreneur. Their podcast becomes a marketing, a branding tool. Podcast Academy Online is where you learn to imagine, develop, launch a podcast at your own pace. PodcastAcademyOnline.com. Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margot Levette. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another episode, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. You know, I believe that if we are going to reinvent ourselves, we're going to be successful entrepreneurs and podcasters and authors. We really have to take care of ourselves. So many times we are running around the globe, chasing around the city, up and down the stairs at our homes, and the focus is on everybody but ourselves. But today's guest, Mackleen Desravines, and I'm going to check back on that last name. I always do, aka Yoni Mack, is going to tell us why we need to slow down, and it's imperative that we care about ourselves. It's imperative to ourselves as women, our fertility, our womb health, how we show up in the world. So I want to thank you for joining me this morning. I have a billion trillion questions for you, dear lady.
Hi, Margot. Thank you for having me this morning.
Oh, wouldn't have it any other way. Let me tell people that you are a certified Yoni practitioner.
Yes.
You actually you used I don't know if it's a practice and you'll clarify this for us, but you steamed for a year. So that sets you on your wellness journey.
Yes.
Now, before we dig deep, because we can travel real deep with this subject, I want you to help us understand Yoni, steaming. How does all of this work for us?
Absolutely. So Yoni steaming is just another word for V-steaming, vaginal steaming. So we take hot water and we put herbs in it. We sit over it and allow those herbs to go inside us to heal the wound area. That's what it really boils down to.
That's fascinating. So, wow. And I've only heard one other person talk about Yoni steaming, and they were very vague. And it really didn't make sense. So now I see that it caught your attention so that you became certified. You took it all the way. So now I have a question about why women should use Yoni steaming. Is it something that all of us should practice? Is it something that if we have had sexual trauma, maybe we've gone through rape, or we just need to cleanse? How do we use Yoni steaming for the betterment of our womb?
So you said it, all of it, because from every level, from the time a woman gets her very first cycle till we don't have a cycle anymore, you need it for all those phases of your lives, really. Because for cleanliness, of course, because we always want to balance our hormones, have a refreshed feeling. But many times for a lot of women, it could be fertility, it could be menopause, it can be vaginal trauma, because women don't talk enough about how to emotionally get over something, but also reset down there, because your womb is your heart. So if there's any kind of trauma in there, it needs catering to. So the warm steaming helps reset that and reset you to kind of, heal. It's not just, you can just seek therapy, but there's holistic ways of also rebalancing yourself as a person. And you have to start with the womb, because that's who we are. Sometimes it's even after surgery. Sometimes women, they get They have their ovaries removed. They have their uterus removed. I think it's a process called I can't remember the word right now, but they feel empty because that's a part of our womanhood. The V steaming helps kind of heal that and heal the woman as a whole. Because again, when our womb area has surgery and things go in there, or your face dealing with even miscarriages, fertility issues, painful, like even menopause, hot flashes, it starts with the womb area. So with the yoni steaming, it helps us cope with that and kind of get ahead of it so that we're able to balance ourselves. The womb area is the heart of the woman's body. And when it's healed and it's nurtured and even pampered, it's like a facial for yourself. You feel good. You feel good. Yeah, you think better. You function better. So the yoni steaming, it's literally from the minute a young woman gets her period up until her last day, you know?
Wow. And this conversation we don't have often enough. We wonder why we feel off balance. We wonder why we can't just really pull it together. A lot of times, if we steam, then that will just help us. I hear you saying that on every level, no matter who you are, where you are, if you uni steam, it's going to affect and it's going to care for your life and help you care for your life. Is that what I hear you say?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It never harms. Like, I work with a doctor, my doctor. And when because I suffer from PCOS and heavy bleeding, and she just gives me medication. I said, what do you think about this steaming? She said, it doesn't hurt. I'm not a fan of it, but it doesn't hurt. So they caution other things because we're talking about natural herbs. So natural herbs are made from the earth, and we are also from the earth. So they are there to heal us. It doesn't harm us. There are sensitivities for certain women because, sometimes flowers can irritate, but as long as you let me know or whatever Yoni Steam Practitioner know, they just adjust the herbs and then you still nourish yourself.
Wow.
Because with everything, there's a bit of caution. But when you're going down the natural route, it doesn't hurt. It only improves. And I agree with that.
That's why you really want to go with someone who is a certified Yoni practitioner, because you know all of these things. And I would imagine that when I went to your website, it was just like, oh my goodness. And I still didn't have a full understanding of what I was looking at. But it's beautifully presented, and you have different you have teas, you have the shower steams. And I'm thinking, oh, this is wonderful for just opening up your body. Yeah, it does open up your body. You use all these wonderful fragrances. And I can imagine that if we steam and we meditate, that is going to really help us with our balance. How often do you advocate that we should steam?
Women are very busy and I respect that. So I say either once a week or every other week. Unless you're still on your menstrual cycle, then you don't steam when you're on your cycle. But other than that, I say once a week or every other week if you can. At minimum once a month. But again, if you do it once a month, you can't expect like a huge miracle. So I'd say just kind of like working out. The more consistent you are, the more results you'll see.
Well, you have definitely piqued my interest. I mean, we've really gone in deep on this. This is for fertility. It's for all women. And I would just from being a podcaster and speaking with so many different women, I have come to understand that we all have some type of trauma. Just the sexual act can be traumatic. Mm-hmm. So I see the need for us to really we need to steam. We really need to steam. You are so involved in Yoni steaming and Yoni, being a Yoni practitioner. You are going to launch a podcast where you cover all of these conversations. You dig really deep. So tell us about your upcoming podcast. When is it launching? What's the name of your podcast so that we can subscribe and we can be there?
So the podcast is going to be called Be That Bee. And the B stands for, it's not just the B word, but it can be boss, it can be beauty, it can be whatever you want to be, as long as it's you. The podcast really focuses on fertility and wellness for all women. So I do talk a lot about fertility because it's a major issue, I think, in not just like African American women, but I think in women as a whole. I've talked to women in their trying to conceive phases, and I've been there too. Women who have been told they cannot have children, or told, well, you have to do the IVF and it's unaffordable, what happens, you don't have insurance. And what are some ways that we can cope with dealing with fertility issues, particularly when you have miscarriages, you have stillborns, and again, womb trauma, because when you go through either 9 months, 6 weeks, 6 months of pregnancy, and then you don't have your baby, that's so traumatic. And how do we recover from that? Many times we're told you'll have another baby or it's okay, and you brush it off and it stays within, you know? And so without the meditation, without the steaming, without the self-care, you can, harm yourself because you go into deep depression. How does it feel when you were having a baby and you didn't have one, and you see somebody else have a baby and they've got no issues? How do you feel when you see a baby woman with a pregnancy bump? That is traumatic. Can you handle going to a baby shower? Things like that I want to discuss about us. And then I'm not about, I'm not, because the professor in me is always about, I will lecture and then we practice. So for the podcast, we're going to talk about everything that bothers us, but we're not going to stay there. We'll get to solutions. So when you're frustrated about trying to have a baby, you're told you can't have one, or you've miscarried, and then you're feeling jealous, acknowledge jealousy. We're human. We acknowledge jealousy. But what do we do with that? Do you stay there? No, you don't stay there. You don't. We never stay in negative space. So in the podcast, we talk about ways to recover from when you get a negative pregnancy test, recover from miscarrying, recover from trying to conceive, recover from loss. Sometimes it's not just, the fertility part, but what if you're pregnant? Like, I lost my mother within about over a year ago. How do you cope with pregnancy with still grieving? What if you just are not getting along with your mother? Things like that again, women go through. So it's about being that bee, like showing up and being who you're supposed to be. And then let's talk about it. Let's get uncomfortable. Let's just be uneasy and then find solutions to what makes us uncomfortable. And that's what my podcast is about, because it comes along with steaming, but it's uncomfortable. It's hard to open your mouth and say, as a woman, it's hard for me to have a baby. And then why do women feel embarrassed about miscarriages? And our doctors tell us it's totally normal, but we're humiliated. We shut down. And let's talk about that. Let's get into the nitty gritty and the ugly, and let's heal from that, because that's the goal. We get to the ugly, we heal from it, and we find solutions. And it's a process that even I go through. And I get a lot of women who tell me they've gone through this, they've gone through that. One woman told me she's had 4 full pregnancies, no children.
Wow.
The level of trauma that she's been through, and she's to the point where she can't look at children. She was a teacher. She stopped teaching. And, she just, it's a process, and the healing process is something that both her and her husband go through. So these are things that she's never talked about, because you're expected as a woman to be strong and get over it. And we can get over it, but it's a process, and accepting that it's a process. Some women, they go through abortions, and that's a scary topic. The shame that can come with it, the fear that comes with it, and the trauma that comes with it. And also, let's talk about regret.
Yes.
That comes with abortion emotionally. We talk about that we're going to talk about that on Be That Bee. So these are a couple of things we're going to talk about on the podcast. And we launched on Valentine's Day because I'm all about self-care and loving yourself. And what better day to love yourself than on Valentine's Day?
Well, I tell you what, you have just blown the roof off of podcasting. And I mean, the audacity to open up this huge subject that people shy away from. I applaud you. This is going to be one amazing podcast. It's a place that doesn't just a bitch session, but a healing session. And if we are true to ourselves, so many of us have been affected by the subjects that you are going to present. And I know just because I feel your warmth, I feel your passion, this is going to be a safe place for women to come and speak. So I'm definitely going to make sure that everybody knows Valentine's Day. While you loving your honey, be sure to love yourself and tune in. Gosh, I just want to, you made mention that you are a professor. Take us back. Wait a minute, you reinvented yourself. Professor, certified Yoni practitioner. I'm loving this. You know, that's the R word, reinvented. Take us on that journey just for a moment.
So I've been a professor for about over 10 years now.
You look like a baby.
I know. Well, Black don't crack, sis. So I've been in there for a long. I've been in higher education for about 12 years, and I think I've been a professor about 10 years. And I've been 10 years this year actually. I'm burned out. I teach English at the community college level, which I still care for my students a lot. And I'm still a good professor. But one thing I always said was, if I'm burning out of something, I believe in going out on top, not when you're completely done. And because I'm on top and I'm dipping down, I was like, it's time for me to move on to do something else. Yeah. And I've been working through that. It was my mother's passing that made me say, all right, girl, enough's enough. It does that. Life changes you in that way. And I said, but I'm still a giver. And I was in my Yoni Steam Practitioner classes. I remember my teacher she said, I want you to write down who you are. Don't think about it. And I was so irritated because I kept saying leader and teacher. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. She said, you're going to educate people no matter what field you're in. That's just the person that you are. And, the transition from going to classroom life to online life due to COVID has changed my teaching drastically, allowed me to have a little bit more room. So I think I'm a better teacher being online anyway, because I'm not as exhausted. Everything is from my home. But getting ready to transition out of education is scary because it's been my stability for over a decade. And I really told myself, I said, you know what? I don't want another position in academia. I want to be on my own. My father was an entrepreneur his entire life. And that's where I'm getting it from, because I'm wiggling out of it. I'm unhappy and I don't want to go apply for another job. Like, that's a joke to me. No, I want to run my own business. I have a separate business, which is a production company where, we shoot commercials and stuff like that. And we're still, my partner and I are still building that. But the Yoni Mack business, I said, due to my mother's passing, I said, I know I'm going to be a working mom. And I know that I'll be on different film sets doing commercials, TV shows, movies, whatever. But my mom, if she was here, she would be by my side, helping me to raise my babies. And I said, I need an income that's going to support that I can live with. Unlike academia, it's just too much now. And so that's where Yoni Mack came, because from a steaming perspective, because then I was involved in steaming for a long time. I just got it done. I'd get it done professionally, and I did it at home, things like that. And so when I started the business, and at first I was like, I'm just gonna sell steams. But then I got into it. I said, I really want the people to, and because it's the educator part of me, I have to learn every single herb that I'm putting in there. And what does each of them do? Learning recipes, get mentors. It was just this whole thing I did just so I can learn about it. But there's other forms of self-care. So me transitioning from academia to being on my own, it's very scary. It is extremely scary. And I've given myself goals and time limits to say, okay, this is when you leave. And building up a business, it's tough, So it's like walking away from stability and the redundancy of academia. Everything is the same now. Okay, guys, let's go over how to use a comma. This is a statement. And I am burnt out and I am tired. And it's time for me to, ride this last year out and bow out. And I know that I have colleagues and my boss, I'm honestly, he's my boss one time said to me, I'm just waiting for you to just quit in the middle of the semester once you get the type of deal, because, I'm good to my students. That's what's first and foremost. First, because I've had professors that were burnt out. I've had professors that didn't like their job and I didn't get nothing out of it. And I don't think that's fair. So I know now it's like, okay, you're at the top and you're dipping down. You don't want to be like those who didn't care about you because they wanted to do something else. So it's like, all right, I need something to take care of this. And I'm honest, I'm a teacher. I don't make that much anyway. So I'm
That's honest.
something that I can replace. It's not like I'm like, oh goodness, I'm replacing a 6-figure salary. It's a joke. So I know this is not going to be that hard. I got to work hard, but when I'm trying to replace, it's not going to be that serious.
Well, let me tell you, just from what I see about you, your passion, the steps in your process, you're going to be glad you walked away from academia while you're at the top, because I just believe that you have tapped into a niche that has been waiting for you. They need your insight, your product, your energy. I'm looking at the time. I do want people to, I have two questions. How do people get in contact with you? And what is it like to work with you? What is it like to purchase your products? Because you have the teas, you have the bombs. How does a person know where to start?
Well, they can absolutely find me on yonimack.com. So it's YONIMACK.com. Or you can follow me on social media. Everything is just Yoni Mack. So you'll be able to find me, or just literally look up Mackleen. And so there you can send me a direct message. I do free 10-minute consultations, but if you need to set up a plan to work with me, there's actually you pay for a full consultation, and I work with you throughout the months until you have me for as long as you need to say, okay, this is how many steams you get, how are we working, and we kind of track your progress so you're not alone. But sometimes women just say, which one do I need? To be honest with you, I have everything broken down on a website, which steam is which steam, what it does, what it's good for. So everything is at the tip of their finger. So usually I just kind of point them in the direction that they need. There's Yoni teas, Yoni bath bombs, Yoni shower bombs. There's Yoni detox pearls. There are different types of thrones. Like you can have a Yoni seat, or you can have a big throne. And I just pretty much tell people which one that they probably need if they're getting started, things like that.
So it's not like we go to yonimack.com, YONIMACK.com, and we just say, well, I don't know where to start, and walk away. No, give this lady a call and set up a consult so that we can get started. And I love the fact that, you know what, Mackleen, it's for all women. At the end of the day, this is for all women, because we do need to cleanse and care for our uterus, our vaginal area. You say that it is the heart of a woman. It is the cradle for children. And how many of us, I'll raise my hand, have neglected that area? Wow.
It happens all the time.
Wow.
So yeah, it's because we're not taught to. And it's not our mother's fault, because maybe they weren't taught about that. So now that we do know, if we know better, we're supposed to do better. And we just kind of keep growing from there.
I just have one other, and I promise this is the last question. This is fascinating to me. I think about all the stress that's in our bodies all around us, and the fact that we don't take care of our vaginal area. We do not purge it of traumas, and we don't cleanse it. We don't care for it. Do you think that is one thing that can lead to cancers building up in our bodies?
Absolutely. You have to think about the emotional state that a woman is in. Now, we can't always avoid certain things like cancer. That's a cell thing, it's estrogen level. However, when we are emotionally going through something, what are we eating? What are we drinking? How are we mentally? And that causes the body to kind of fall out of a balance. So does it make our estrogen levels go up even more after we had our children? Do we not address the postpartum part where you're dealing with all your hormones going ballistic? And then that also can lead to your estrogen levels being extremely high, your blood sugars being extremely high, and that leading to diabetes, that leading to different type of cancers, particularly in the womb area or within breast cancer, which I'm learning a lot of because that's what my mother passed away from. So, when we're not addressing these things from the surface, it affects us on the inside. When we're eating a certain way, are we feeding fibroids? Are we adding so much sugar to our diet? What happens? Sugar, it triggers fibroids, it triggers cysts, it triggers cancer. So this could just be simply of us. We're so stressed out every day. You got to have this type of coffee. You got to have this type of pastry. So it leads to other things. Now, when we've stepped back and we nurture ourselves, because I always tell people, don't steam and then think I can do whatever I want after that. And you go back to what made you want to steam in the first place. Make a decision to change your life. And it's baby steps. Gotcha. It'll come full circle. And then that is what is preventative medicine to the cancers, to the diabetes, to the cysts, and whatever else that you're going through. And even small things like painful periods or painful sex, that leads to trauma. And it causes you to kind of ripple effect. And then you do other things in your life that affect the womb area. And then that leads to certain diseases. So one thing I say is, you do the best you can with what you have. So if all right, like for my mother passed away from breast cancer. And I said, they're the last generation that are going to deal with that. So what I do is when I'm steaming, I pray over myself, I pray over my body, and I make decisions. For example, I'm not going to eat certain types of food that I know have certain things that are linked to cancer. Do I do breast checks more often? Because when I'm steaming, I feel a lot more whole. I feel clean and I want to stay clean. So I'm probably going to eat clean. And me eating clean is more preventative medicine. So if, it's in the stars that I were to get sick, I can heal quicker than if I did nothing at all. So we build and we make our bodies very strong, and we make our minds strong as well, because we've decided, let's take care of the heart of the body, which is the womb area. It starts there.
Gosh, the heart, the mind, and it seems like once you start steaming, you really are on a spiritual journey. You are in that moment, making decisions, making changes. Wow. Yoni Mack, I have learned a lot. My goodness, Mackleen, and I'm not going to butcher your last name. Will you give us your last name, please?
It's Desravines.
Desravines, Mackleen Desravines, Yoni Mack. She is a certified Yoni practitioner. Now, you know what? I didn't read her Instagram handle to you, but I'm going to close out with that because I love it. She's a certified Yoni practitioner who meditates, she cusses, she eats vegetables and cookies, drinks water and martinis, does yoga, and raps hip hop songs. We have had one heck of a conversation. Wow. Find her everywhere on social media at YONIMACK.com. Be sure to be on the lookout for her podcast, brand new podcast coming out, talking about all things steaming, all things women and our vaginal area, our uteruses, self-care. We're going to care for ourselves as she launches her podcast on Valentine's Day. So we'll find you over on Apple and all of the major platforms, I'm sure.
Major platforms. And if you don't want to do that, you can always go to my website, yonimack.com, and click Be That Beat podcast. You can listen to it there.
All right. Woo. Yeah. And while you're there, then while you're listening, you can take a look at all of our fabulous products. Sounds like a date, sounds like a place on Valentine's Day. Oh, any parting words, any last words? I'm looking at the time and I know I should shut down, but this is so fascinating. I know that we just scratched the surface, but this is fascinating. One last message for women.
I always say to ladies, and I leave this off on almost everything I send them, self-care has to be more than a nap, sis. I'm going to leave you all with that.
I tell you, I'm glad that you're leaving academia and you are going into a space where you're helping women on such a big, big level. Congratulations on launching that podcast. I think it's an excellent move. You're going to help a lot of people. This is global. What you're dealing, what you're bringing to the world is really a global message. So, wow. As I always say, every week, it is hard for me to close out these episodes. So people are going to have to listen more than one time and definitely do that. I'm Margot Levette, her business, her voice, her conversation. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, wear your mask, take care of yourself, okay? Bye-bye, everybody. I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do right now. Go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.